to Levon's Kitchen. Today we're in the kitchen making some shrimp egg foo young with that good gravy. Yes, it's gonna be on and popping. First we're gonna start off with washing our bean sprouts and draining them really well. Next we're gonna chop up some green onions. Make sure you save a few of those onions for garnish at the end, but we're gonna use the majority of them in the egg foo young. We are going to add those green onions to the bean sprouts and set that aside while we make our gravy. So to start our gravy, first thing we're going to do is chop up one onion into some small pieces. And we are going to put those in a skillet with some oil and go ahead and let those onions cook for a while. We're just going to use some vegetable oil and just saute those onions to bring all that flavor out of them. In our gravy, we're going to use some oyster sauce, some soy sauce, and some sesame seed oil. So let's go ahead and brown these onions. And we're going to make a roux. So we're going to add some flour to our oil and onions as well. We want our gravy to be thick. That's that good Chinese gravy. You want it to be thick with your egg foo young. Don't add all your flour at once. Add a little at a time until it gets thick. As you can see, I'm adding 1 tablespoon at a time. When making gravy, you have to stir constantly to avoid lumps. You don't want lumpy gravy. You want a smooth, creamy consistency. So make sure you are constantly stirring your gravy, your roux. As you can see, not only is the roux starting to thicken up, but it's starting to turn brown as well. You want to make sure you brown your roux very well for that color. You don't want a white or blonde roux. You want a almost caramel color roux. As you can see, not only is my roux turning brown, but those onions are turning brown as well, releasing all that flavor. See, it's almost that caramel color, almost like a peanut butter type color. This is what you want. We're going to stir in our chicken broth right now, and look at how nice and thick and creamy this turns. In some gravies, you use just the roux, and in some gravies, as a thickener, you use a cornstarch slurry. But in this gravy, we are actually going to use both. We've already done our roux and made it thick, but we're going to also thicken it a little bit more with our cornstarch slurry. Remember, use both. To make our slurry, we're just going to add a tablespoon of cornstarch to some water, mix it well, and then we're going to add it to our gravy. Now I'm going to add a little bit more chicken broth to get this to the perfect consistency that I'm looking for. And there it is. Our gravy is done. So now we're going to go ahead and work on our egg foo young. So I have 6 large shrimp that I have cleaned and deveined. I am going to chop them up and season them with just some salt and pepper. Now remember, our green onions and bean sprouts were in the strainer draining. So we're going to take the dry bean sprouts and put them in a bowl, and then we're going to add our shrimp to that and just mix it up pretty well before we add our eggs. Because once we add our eggs, we don't want to over mix the mixture, because what will happen is it will get watery, and you don't want your mixture to be watery. So I'm going to just mix this up by hand, and I've got 6 eggs right here. I'm going to go ahead and crack these eggs in a bowl separately before I add them to the bean sprout mixture. So I'm just going to put them in here, and I'm not going to stir them or anything. I'm just cracking them in a separate bowl to make sure I don't get any eggshells in here. Next thing. Now I want to season my mixture a little bit with just a little bit of salt and a little bit of black pepper. And then I'm going to mix that all together again before I put eggs in it. But I also want to add my sesame oil in here. So now we're going to put our eggs in here. And then I'm just going to mix that up. I didn't put all 6 eggs. I just put the first 4. I wanted to see if that was going to be enough. And it doesn't look like it, so I'm going to add 2 more, the other 2 eggs to it. You don't want too many eggs, but you want to make sure you have enough. So that's why I did the 4 first. And this is going to be perfect. You don't want to overmix it. Just fold those eggs into it. And while I'm doing that, I have my oil heating up in the pan. Let's not forget the soy sauce. We got to add a little bit of soy sauce to the mixture as well. Now that my oil has heated to 350 degrees, I'm going to take a spoonful of the mixture out and put it in here. But as you can see, I'm holding it to the side, up against the side, and making sure everything's back on top of it so that it turns into a patty. We don't want it to just spread all out in the oil. We want to hold it right there and let it turn into a patty, and so that it's stuck together. I'm going to get as many of these in here as I can, but I don't want them touching each other because they're individual patties. So separate them, make sure that they're not touching each other. And if there's any little eggs or anything floating around, just put it on top of it. Now remember, we have a lot of things going on in this mixture. However, the eggs is going to wound up being on the outside, but we want to make sure that everything on the inside is cooked as well, which is why I only wanted the temperature of the oil to be at 350 degrees. But what I'm going to do is start to put some of this hot oil on top of my patties, just so that it's starting to cook on the top as well. You could try to deep fry these, but this is how I was taught to do it. I think if you deep fry it and just put it in deep fry, it would just all fall apart. But I wanted to start cooking on the top as well, because I want these to cook from the inside out, not just from the outside in. So if I put a little hot oil on the top, it may help it to start cooking a little bit on the top as well. So make sure you keep separating them, because like I said, we want individual patties. We don't want one big pancake here. They do cook quick, which is another reason I put it on 350 degrees. And as you can see, I'm lifting it up to see if it's brown on the other side, because we are going to flip these when they get brown. So you have to keep checking to see if it's brown on the other side, because we don't want it to be burnt on one side and raw on the other. So when it gets brown, it's time to flip. They are ready to flip. See how golden brown they are on the other side? I have a plate lined with paper towel, and I'm gonna put these on there to drain any excess grease. I'm ready to plate this up. I'm going to go ahead and put it on a plate with some gravy. And remember, I told you to save some of those green onions for garnish. This is where they come in. We're going to top it with a few green onions, and I am ready to eat. Now, doesn't that look delicious? You don't have to go to Chinese restaurants anymore to get their shrimp egg foo young, chicken egg foo young, whatever type of egg foo young you like, because this is so much better than a lot of the Chinese restaurants that I have been to. Try it out and let me know what you think. I'm digging in.